Hello, hello. Welcome everybody to our Invest in Her Benzinga Women Grow Partnership wrap up. My name is Tanya Osborne, Director of Community for Women Grow, and I'd like to introduce Gia Marone, President of Women Grow, to kind of get us started.
Thank you, Tanya. Good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are. Thank you for joining us this evening. We are excited. It's the first time I think we've ever done this, Tanya, where we actually have done like a recap of one of our, I would say, our events, our partnerships, one of our experiences. And so it's pretty awesome that we are, in my opinion, it's awesome that we are doing this, but we're always pushing ourselves to do something different and to really share as much as we can with our community as we're learning new areas within the industry, to share some of the voices that have had those experiences with us. And so tonight we get to actually talk about the recap of our Benzinga Times Women Grow Invest in Her.
And this was actually an event that was really worthy of a recap because I think this was really a big deal. I think we was like some groundbreaking stuff here, so especially in our industry, it was really wonderful to be able to carve out this lane for women to be able to participate in this. I mean, I think for all the years that we've been in business, it was encouraging women to get into business, and so many have now. So now it's a matter of keeping them in business and allowing them to grow and build. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And getting them in rooms that we've had some challenges getting into, and not even challenges. I think sometimes there's a fear of entering some bigger rooms and meeting some new faces and businesses that we had not had access to. But I can tell you one thing, this was not an overnight event.
Oh, I know.
And I think anyone that's watching, hopefully, you do begin to understand the amount of work and passion and commitment and dedication that we have, not only in the work that we currently do, but the work that we're pushing ourselves to do. This was a lot of long days, long nights, a lot of changes, a lot of edits, a lot of reviewing. Not only, and first of all, let me just pause a minute and thank you. Thank you, Tanya, so much. Don't roll your eyes, because you know that this is not an easy lift. And you're always right there with me, even when I'm like, Tanya, guess what we're going to do now? You're always like, what do we do now? And I'm like, I'll tell you the idea. And I come with.
And I usually love it. That's the problem, is I usually love it. And then I'm like, oh yeah, we could do this.
So we can do this. And then we begin the work. And then I'm like, why did I say we should do this again? Because
I'm like, I have no idea.
We know that in the end, it's going to be great. It's just much like building a business. It's going to take some time, energy, and we have to build the right foundation. Right. And so I do want to personally thank you, because no matter what, no matter the time, the hours, the voicemails, the emails, I'm like, we need this, got to do this. And we did it. But through this process, we also had some incredible partners. I'll talk about the businesses soon, but I've gone to Benzinga conferences for a while now, and I always went as an attendee, as a student. We both have that affinity for the financial services, because we both have a background in that. And so going to these conferences, I was never really as caught up about who was attending. I was more interested in the information being shared. But what I always did was like run back and tell people, oh, I learned about this. I heard this. Absolutely. I wrote notes. I met a lot of people. And, it was actually in April, earlier this year, I believe, when we were in Miami. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to reach out to these guys, because I really think that we can, do something together. Right. And it's been just amazing. They have been so welcoming, so open to the feedback. Just
Yes.
it was weeks of brainstorming. People really have to understand it really didn't happen overnight. So I would love, Tanya, if we can
Yeah.
bring in Patrick and Elliot Lane.
Hi, guys.
Hello.
Hello, good evening.
You guys are far too humble, right? I can only imagine how much work went on behind the scenes here. But Elliot, let's give them some snaps. Gia and Tanya from
the
Women
organization.
Grow.
The organization you showed with spreadsheets, making sure everybody was involved that needed to be involved. It was inspirational. I'll say that.
It really was, and it's a pleasure working with you guys too, because you can tell that passion runs deep, right? For getting women in the door and making sure that there is a really solid place for them in this industry. And it was infectious. I remember Elliot and I talking about it, and we wanted to be involved right away, right? So thank you for being so game to work with us.
No, thank you. Thank you for just accepting. I mean, we'd already been in touch about other things in the past, but when I reached out to you all right after your Miami show, which was incredible, I thought the energy was really high there. Pun intended. You can't not have puns here, right?
You have to. It's a prerequisite.
It is. But I mean, the connections and feedback, and I will say that's honestly where I actually saw probably one of the most diverse crowds after attending Benzinga for quite some time. And at that time, you had introduced the social equity track to your event, and got to just hear from so many incredible businesses. And that's when the light went on. I was like, oh, but we need to bring the women, and I know where we can find them. And you all were just so embracing, about that. And I appreciate you all for doing that. And we started having conversations in May, like right after your show.
Yeah. It would have been unachievable without you, though, Gia. Honestly, it's your brainchild that we were thrilled to work on with you.
Well, thank you very much. But you all put on a big show. And so we contributed to the show, and I appreciate that. But not only that, we met on a weekly basis from May on. And then we took a little break because we needed to organize from our side. But for I feel like 3 months straight, we were on calls brainstorming about what this could look like. And I want to also compliment your team because they were phenomenal, especially at the end when everything goes crazy, right? It's like, who's registered?
That is very true. They were really wonderful.
They're phenomenal people.
The setup to really helping us get everything together. It was really great to have that support there. It was good.
Good.
Well, I appreciate that. And I just to say really quickly, I would be remiss if we didn't say this. I don't think anybody gets this right yet in this industry, right? But this is a work in progress, and we're committed to this. We're committed. I said to you, Gia, early on, Elliot and I are committed to diversity across our stages. It's really, really important to us and to the organization as a whole. And something else that's really important to us is feedback, right? So I'm thrilled that you're having this session. We want to learn from you and the women that participated, the women that were there. It's a cornerstone of who we are at Benzinga, right? We always want to do a better job. So just want to say that out loud too.
No, thank you so much. And we talked about that, we're coming out the gate. We're not going to get it perfect, but we're going to do the best we can right out the gate. And, from our side, especially when we weren't holding our weekly meetings and we were doing the work on our side in terms of selecting companies and how do we do this. And one of the things that Tanya and I learned from doing, I wouldn't say something similar, because what we did with CWCB Expo was very different than what we did. And we told you that out front, we're not replicating that, because why? That belongs to that partnership. We want to do something with you that's more unique and actually is more aligned with the event that you produce. But for us, we knew that our Excel sheet, our survey that we are known to do now, the only way we can get better is if we receive the feedback as well. Like, it's just as important to us as it is for you, because again, we're doing this based on just a vision. And, we believe that we're observing what our community needs, but Tanya's got a certain idea of what we should have. I've got one. And then, of course, our greater community of Women Grow has it as well. But before we even bring in the women and my late night emails, the Gia After Hours email that I introduced you all to, we'll talk about that. But you all,
I loved it.
Welcome. That's all I have to say.
We
will talk about that, but if not anything else, I think we would behoove ourselves to BS around the reality of things. We have to be honest, and I think it's important to be upfront and tell people where we are. Yes, there's going to be room for error. Yes, you have to be prepared. Yes, these are the things you should come with, because again, we're entering a new circle. And this is a new environment that we are building on. But one of the things that I would like to do is for you all to talk about a new addition to your team that you all announced that will work with you on DEI, I believe. Is that correct?
Absolutely true. So Ernest Tony, and feel free to bring him on whenever you like. Ernest is here. I'll let him introduce himself. But the thing that's most important to us, not only using Ernest's prowess as a marketing leader and the work that he's done in the past with MJ Biz and other organizations to propel our events team to the next level, but it's also taking his expertise in the company BIPOC that he built and saying that, hey, this is our commitment, right? We want to partner with BIPOC. We want to work with Ernest to make sure that we're doing this the right way. Right. So Ernest, I'll shut up, man. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hey everybody, I'm really excited to be here. It's good to meet Tanya, and good to see you again, Gia, and Patrick, Elliott. As mentioned, I recently joined the Benzinga team. So actually, I was not even 2 weeks on the staff. It was maybe 2 weeks into my tenure when the Cannabis Capital Conference occurred in Chicago. I can tell you a little bit about what excited me about the opportunity, but also want to share some of my background. About 5 years ago, I got my start in the cannabis industry by joining MJ Biz. So while working for MJ Biz Daily, I was on their event marketing team. So we helped, launch and, create some events, not only in the US, but also in Europe and Canada and in Latin America. But what I was really excited about was taking a lead in crafting some of the community-based partnerships. So we had this Associations Day event, which is still happening on a regular basis at their events, but it was all centered around bringing community together, bringing all of the organizations that are working to advance the industry forward. So learned a lot, from the marketing efforts that I did, in that capacity. But for the past, since 2020, I have been working for BIPOC. It was an organization that I started that was really addressing some issues that I know are near and dear to Women Grow. And that's the lack of minority representation in business ownership and leadership within this industry. The focus that we had is trying to make the industry more accessible and profitable for minority entrepreneurs and those social equity licensees and applicants. So in the past couple of years, I can't tell you how many hundreds of conversations I've had with, people from all across the country who are trying to figure out how to do social equity right and how to create, platforms that are going to create opportunities for our communities. And I can say one of the things that probably comes up 90% of the time is the biggest barrier, the most commonly cited barrier is that access to capital. So, fast forward to earlier this summer, one of the things that I recognize is did a great job in terms of, creating relationships that can benefit people when they're looking for introductions, trying to get education, trying to had a lot of the social capital, but not the financial capital. So when I saw that, Benzinga had presented itself as like a very respected organization, but also like in the cannabis space, like getting a name out there about their abilities to create connections that are going to make capital and investing more accessible to business owners, that resonated with me, because I felt like there's a way that I could not only use my marketing chops, but also, the stuff that we've done in the past 2 years, on the grassroots level, then that's going to help everybody out. Let's create more opportunities like the partnership that you had with Invest in Her that are going to put more people, more underrepresented communities in a room where they can actually access the resources that they need. So that's what got me excited about this. And, I'm stepping in as the event marketing director, Benzinga, working on partnerships. And as we go into the Miami conference in a few months, looking forward to figure out ways that we can make that like even more accessible, to our communities, so that we can really like reduce those gaps. I think that's what it's all about. I think so many times, like when people get started in this industry, they don't exactly know where to go. And, if there's ways like through partnerships with Women Grow or BIPOC Can, that we can make it easier for people to get from point A to point B by facilitating the right relationships and connections, education, and meetings with investors, then that's going to help this industry move forward.
And that's why I love Ernest. It's amazing, isn't he? I mean, you guys have known him longer than I have, so you're way luckier than I am.
And we've been trying to figure out more ways of working together, and we've had many conversations. So I was really excited that you all brought him onto your team. And you know what I failed to ask you? For those who are not familiar with Benzinga, can you, Elliot, Patrick, can you talk about what you all do and the events that you've held around the country before we bring in Invest in Her participants?
Sure.
Scholarship?
Yeah, let me talk, Patrick. You talk enough. Just kidding. Can you tell we're related? So Benzinga, first and foremost, we are a financial media outlet. So we cover all markets. If you are interested in growing your individual wealth, investing in stocks, learning about options, learning how to invest in crowdfunding or real estate, all that information is on Benzinga. It's a site where our ethos is meant to help you build your individual wealth. So obviously events are a part of that. We've been putting events on for 8 years, about 8 years now. Fintech and cannabis specifically are the emerging markets that we focused on. And over the past year, we have really taken it upon ourselves to expand that into other markets, such as psychedelics and mental wellness, such as perhaps clean technology. There's an alternative investments again. But in terms of what we do with these events, they did start off specifically as investor conferences, as ways for companies to pitch their product and what they're doing to a room full of investors. And that product itself, the investor conference itself for us, has shifted so dramatically since I started in 2018 to now, being the interest from the investor side. And what they're looking for and how actively they're looking for it. When I started in late 2018, my first cannabis conference was in early 2019. And since then, Chicago was our 14th one since then. And it has dramatically shifted in terms of the education that people are looking for. Who's looking for that education? I'm taking the Ernest Tony word there. And we're looking to grow our event with this industry and make it a center of content to match what we do on benzinga.com. Hope that helps.
No, it's perfect. And with the 14th show, you did something new, and we introduced, I will say that it was a Women Grow hashtag creation, hashtag Invest in Her.
Yes.
And before we bring the women on, you all said to me, well, we, just identify the companies, make sure that they're raising capital, they're ready for investment. And the one pushback that I had, I said, I need to have some service companies there. And do you guys remember? You were like, well, what? And I said, no. Part of investing in her isn't just about the financial investment. It's also about supporting the women-owned businesses in the industry that are providing a service to the companies that are currently operating. That is also investing in her. Contracting and an HR company, an accounting firm, which we invited to the show. And I loved it because while you were like, well, no, and I pushed back, but then you guys were like, and I'm like, these are the conversations I want to have. Let's debate, let's work it out, and then, like a woman, yeah, we got our way.
That's amazing. That was hard for us. That was hard. That initial conversation. I remember that, Gia, and it was because we're bringing a ton of service providers to an investor conference can get dicey at times, right? When the companies feel like, hey, I don't know if I'm meeting enough investors. Am I just getting pitched by people that want me to pay them, right? But I heard you loud and clear, and Elliot did too. And I think you're absolutely right. It's important that the entire ecosystem be populated but with that diversity as well, right? Instead of just a brand or a retail operator or something like that. So it's good for us to learn along the way too. Go ahead, Al.
Yeah, I was just saying, just to piggyback off that and what we saw some results in Chicago, I think the industry is starting to learn and be more open to the presence of really good service providers, not just the big names, but quality ones that offer more white glove service and more personalized service, because we've seen a lot of failed service in this industry. And a lot of these companies have used our events and are using other events around the industry that you all probably go to find better and more consistent partners. And it's something that we saw in Chicago, and we thank you for pushing us to that.
Thank you. No, thank you for being open. And I think now is the best time, Tanya, because we have some folks backstage that represent companies not only in the ancillary space in terms of product producing, but also services. And if we can bring them up, I would love just to hear their voices, for them to actually see Patrick and Elliot. Elliot, you weren't there because you had just had a baby. Congratulations to you.
I know. I missed all you all. There would have been many a hug, but we'll double it in Miami in April.
I think I said thank you to Patrick about 1,000 times. Every time I saw him, I was like, thank you. Thank you so much.
999 of those were for you, Elliot. So
I'll take them.
So Tanya, come on in. Yep. Tiffany, Jamie. Hey.
Hello.
It's a party. It's a party.
Yeah.
Woo-hoo.
How are you? Well, I can't say the whole gang's here, but some of the incredible women are here. Tanya, can you read off all of the companies that participated?
So all the companies that participated were.
Where did she go?
No.
She was so excited she left.
Off the charts.
So let me see if I can start out. So she's back.
Yeah. We've got Hustle and Flow. We've got the brands that were represented were Hustle and Flow, Her Highness NYC, Tribe Tokes, Roll Up Life, House of Saka, That's Ours, Cannabella Lux, Illinois Equity Staffing, Budwell, the Budwell Shop, Indiva Advisors, The House of Puff, 40 Tons, Chicago Normal, Black Buddha Cannabis, My Bud Vase, and M2M Consulting. Those are all the brands that were represented, which is fantastic.
Huge.
It really, it was. And I want to just thank, not everyone can join us today. I want to acknowledge Laura from Her Highness, She unfortunately suffered a loss in her family, and she was ready to like join us. And she was like, "Listen, it's just not a good day," and we completely understood. But you know, thank you all, like the women that are here with us, and I know that there's more in the back, but thank you all for coming out to Chicago, for joining us. Congratulations to you all for just taking a step with us in this. And, I want to start out with Sarah. Why don't you introduce your company, and then also just talk about what your experience was at Benzinga.
Sure. Okay, I'll go first. So I'm Sarah Hussein. I am the owner of Budwell. Budwell is a smokeware accessories brand. We are quite well known for our flagship product, which is the world's #1 absolute best one hitter, Buddy. And we like to call our products analog, affordable, and androgynous. We are so I'm a first generation American. My parents are from Bangladesh. And while I am a lady, the idea for my product came to me while I was on the road with my band. Women are not a monolith, no smokers are. And we're trying to solve that problem by providing smokeware for people that is, tough but durable, simple and cheap.
That's awesome. And can you, what was your experience? I mean, what did you expect coming to Benzinga?
All right. So I am, our brand is more or less a pandemic baby. We launched in 2019, and then a year later, the world shut down. So getting to go to events in general is just something that I started dipping my toe in about a year ago in a big way with Hall of Flowers. I've been to like a handful of events, and from Benzinga, which I had heard referred to as Menzinga, I was a little nervous about, what the crowd demographics were going to be like. And obviously, if we're there to represent, then that's for a reason. What I will say is that I had such a blast. For anybody that didn't come by our booth, you missed out, because it was awesome. We were so busy. I mean, there were like these stretches of time where I would be like thirsty for like an hour, because we were just like talking. So many people to talk to, so many people that were coming by. And, I think the best part of the conference, again, being that we have largely grown during this time where we've all had to, operate behind screens, or at least for me, that's how it's been. So to see other women just doing their thing and killing it, like being able to learn from my peers in that way, that was a really valuable experience for me. I mean, that is worth more than all the investor handshakes in the world, honestly. So to be able to concentrate the force of women like that and put them in a situation where the energy is collaborative is something that I was not expecting, a gift like that this fall. So thank you.
No, you're welcome. And thank you for joining us. And I've told you time and time again, like, I love your product. I love it. I want to actually pivot over to Roz McCarthy, Black Buddha Cannabis. For those that typically know Roz in the industry, most know her as the CEO of Minorities for Medical Marijuana. But then Roz said, I'm going to switch it on you. I'm coming out with a product. And Roz, if you can tell us a little bit tell us about your product, because we want you to know, and we're going to actually talk about the video that we compiled. But you had a different experience, whereas you pitched from the stage. So I would love for you to introduce Black Buddha, and then also talk about your experience from the stage.
Yeah, thank you guys. Thank you first, Gia. Thank you, Benzinga. Thank you for creativity. Thank you for thinking of the little person, thinking of women. thinking of these women of color, women that are just women across the board. And it's very appreciative. Black Buddha Cannabis is a lifestyle cannabis brand that has a plethora of products, and we're entering into markets starting on the East Coast and then going to scale over to the West Coast. But this brand was born from a moment of healing for myself. Last year, I suffered a traumatic brain injury, and during my time of healing, I developed my own personal relationship with this plant. I fell in love with cannabis, and I've been in the industry since 2016. But when your health is in jeopardy, when you are in a position where you may not even, where you thought you was about to die, and you felt the power of this plant transitioning and transforming your life, and then incorporating meditation, mantras, and meditation within your holistic health practice to get better, Black Buddha Cannabis was born. I'm excited. We're in Massachusetts on shelf right now. So we have an 8th flower jar. We have a vape pen. We have a pre-packed. We have gummies coming out. We're headed to Pennsylvania. Just found out today that our label approval is ready to go for Pennsylvania. So we'll be on shelf in November, the first week of November, then Ohio, and then Nevada. So I needed investors because right now, when you're pre-revenue, it's the hardest one when you're a woman and then a woman of color. And I'm gonna be honest with you, because we get love, but the seriousness of understanding that I am a businesswoman. I know business from the top to the bottom. I manage my household. I manage my kids. I manage a nonprofit. And guess what? I manage now this brand new company. And my team is incredible. My experiences in life are incredible. I have all of this experience that can be able to build a brand that can rival a Wild, a rival a Wana. And so being on the main stage, first, not having to pay $3,500 to be on a pitch stage when you don't know exactly who's going to be in the audience that you're pitching to and don't know if they're actually investors who have the wherewithal and the capital to invest. Thank you, Gia. Thank you, Patrick. Thank you guys so much, because that takes a big, huge weight off. It allowed me to present this beautiful presentation that I was able to connect with investors. I was able to connect with my fellow colleagues who are in the industry. We were able to talk about the presentation. And from that on-stage presentation, we've had multiple conversations with investors. Some are still shaky, but a few were really strong. But it was the perfect place for me, because we were pre-revenue then, but now we're not pre-revenue. We got reorders coming through, like Massachusetts is on fire right now. So I'm very grateful.
We loved having you.
Yes, Roz. Yes, Sarah.
Congrats, you guys.
Sarah has one of
Yeah, congratulations too. Wow.
Yeah, we still got. I haven't gotten that commitment yet, but what you offered was the opportunity for us to be, on that main stage. And again, there are some conferences that charge you upward $2,500, $3,500, $5,000 to get on the main stage. And when you're up and coming business and you're just trying to you barely got to Chicago, just that, not having to worry about that type of expense means the world.
No, that's good feedback, and thank you so much. It's good to hear. I'm glad you actually, even identified that not every investor, right, is going to be the right fit for you, or even come in at the commitment level that you're looking for. And I think that's also important to understand as we do head into these conferences. I actually want to jump down to Miss Tiffany. And if you guys didn't see Tiffany during the show, she came in one day with a pink suit. And by wearing that pink suit, she met someone that I thought was so incredible. She was so excited. But Tiffany, come in, talk about your product. And then also, I think with you, I'd love to, you displayed in the booth space with Sarah, but you were actually working it in a different way. And I'd love to get that feedback from you, because you're actually a local Chicago person.
I am. So it was a huge goal for me to Benzinga. I always it always where it's room where it's so curated, smaller, and hard to prevent. So I was so manifesting this excitement of, I was like, I'm gonna get to Benzinga. It's in Chicago. I'm gonna get there. And I get this email from you, Gia and Tanya, and I'm like, right? So I was so incredibly excited. So I'm kind of different because I was a lifestyle accessories boutique before, and I don't really have a product as much as I have a brand and sort of things we're working on. So, Green has her beautiful vases, and Sarah's got her awesome Budwells. And I'm like, hey, it's me in a pink suit. Let me tell you why you should invest in women and culture, vending machines and herbal tea and all these things, right? So one, I got to meet I got to meet two amazing people, guys. I got to meet Will Breakout, Lazy Susan, the CEO, and take a picture of my pink suit. And it was like just so personally like career fulfilling. And two, I did get to meet Jim Belushi and have a very fun conversation with Tanya and him and talk about women and investing. So that was wild. But I have to tell you guys, this experience, to Sarah's point of collaboration, to Roz's point of the opportunity to get there financially. I mean, we say this, right? It's white men, white women, maybe like men of color, maybe then women of color. It's a hard one to talk about, but the investment is so low. So to be in this smaller environment, for me to, as a local Chicagoan, like this was huge for me, you guys. I felt like I can't even explain how validated I felt as a woman in cannabis. I think that is the true word. I felt so validated and authentic, and I felt so proud of what I had taken to get there. And I felt like it's the true thing of like luck is preparation meets opportunity. And I felt like the amount of emails that Gia sent out, making sure, but it was Tanya, that we were so prepared. I had my pitch deck ready. I was like, you made us feel so safe and secure. And the first day, Patrick, I see you, and you guys are asking how our experience was. And I can just personally say I have never felt more the concern, the actual care, and the actual want to do better and to actually invest in women. This is, the first time. So I just think it was so excellent. And I quite frankly can't wait to see what else happens, because I just feel so validated. So it was the best, you guys.
I love your energy. You are like so infectious, so infectious. And, one of the other things that we thought about in pulling Invest in Her together, and I said to Patrick and Elliot, I was like, we can't go into Chicago and not have local Chicago businesses there. Like, that's not going down. And I don't want that to happen for this show. And I don't want that to happen for this show while we are partners with you, because we know there are women business owners in that city that are looking for the opportunity. And I'm going to come back to Chicago, but I actually want to jump over to New York to Jamie, because in preparation for Benzinga, Jamie put together one of the most impressive investor decks. And I mean, it was absolutely incredible. But what was also funny is every time I saw Jamie, it was like Zoom, like she was Zooming. And I'm like, I don't know if she's going to meetings, if she's going to sessions. And so I think that's one of the questions that I have for you, Jamie. One, I'd love for you to introduce your business, but really talk about, like, were you meeting people there? Or were you rushing to session? Because when I say, like, you literally were flying, like there was no short conversation. It was like, hey, hi, and you were off. So talk to us.
Well, first of all, I want to just express my gratitude to you, Gia, Tanya, the Woman Girl team, Benzinga, all of you for making this happen. Woman Girl has been one of our cheerleaders since day one, and it means the world to us. So really, thank you. So as you mentioned, my name is Jamie. I am the founder and CEO of Hustle and Flow. We are a wellness lifestyle brand. We offer premium cannabis products. We offer both CBD and THC products at events. And we're also building community through elevated experiences. We have strategic partnerships with a number of places here in New York City, and we only just hope to scale and expand that. Really quickly, this Hustle and Flow was born out of a vision and then a need. It was a personal story that I won't dive into just for sake of time. But Gia in the investor stage mentioned, she said it's so beautiful. But one of the things that stood in my head was, Gia said, invest in women, but don't invest in women because we're women. Invest in women because we know what we're doing. And that's exactly what I feel this represents, right? We're passionate about this industry. There's a story behind it. We know we're doing this, yes, of course, the business, and we want to generate revenue, and this is why we attend the Benzinga. However, the premise and the foundation was bigger than that. Like, how are we, as for Hustle and Flow, how are we impacting people's lives daily? And that's what keeps us going, because there's many challenges. But the moment we get the feedback from products, from experiences, it's like, whew, the adrenaline comes back up. So to answer your question, Gia, so yes, I was meeting investors. I was wanted, the way that I come from sales, I have a background in sales. And so I wanted to just be strategic. Okay, who's here? Who can I meet? How can I approach them? If someone's getting off the stage and I really resonated with what they said, let me go up to them. Let me not waste any time. Let me get their card. Let me connect. So it was partly both going to sessions that I felt I wanted to be part of and learn from, and connect with people, the panelists and attendees there, and then also meeting with some of the investors. And so for me particularly, we had a few incredible meetings, and we're in conversations. And whether we end up raising money from some of these investors, or we end up having distribution deals, which will, expose the brand incredibly on a massive level, I think it was a beautiful opportunity to have access to some of these people that, I don't get to meet on a regular basis. So that was part of of what we were doing. As regards to the pitch deck, we're a tiny team, a tiny but mighty team. And I do have to give credit to Christina, who, I don't know if she's watching, but Christina says, I'm a rock star and she's a beast. And we're like the perfect combination. So it was really, I want to give her credit that she was able to put something like this together for us while I was prepping, doing a number of other things. And that's how we calibrate each other, and we're able to, just focus and kind of approach things from that level.
Awesome. I mean, it was an incredible deck. I was so impressed. And I mentioned earlier, guys, that I lost you. Did I lose you? There you are. That I was sending these interesting emails out to everyone in the late hours, and I kind of came up with, it wasn't even planned, but I came up with, I guess, to-dos or what to expect when going to these conferences. And that's based off of my experience of attending, and for those who had never attended a conference like Benzinga, knowing that you should have an investor deck. Roz's investor deck is like amazing. But the other thing is that we also told the participants, if you didn't have an investor deck, then come together with your financials, come together with like your summary. Don't come empty-handed, because it can really start there. And we saw magic happen so quickly, which, I applaud. Which is interesting, because I want to switch over to Shawnee. One, by the way, guys, Shawnee was interviewed on your platform, and I was like, yay, go Shawnee. But Shawnee, I want you to introduce what you do, because you were actually one of the service providers that we wanted to make sure were a part of Invest in Her. You're also based in Chicago, and in addition to you telling us about your business, I also saw you speaking with a number of people there, and I'm wondering if you were able to make the connections in terms of the types of service that you provide to the industry, which is hiring, it's staffing.
Thanks, Gia. So Illinois Equity Staffing is WBE MBE certified here in Chicago, and we focus on human resources, talent acquisition, and training in the cannabis and hemp space. That is a very tiny sliver of what we do. We're actually heavily, I guess you would say, like grassroots oriented. So we're advocates at the very root of our mission. So our mission is to have more Black and brown folks who are disproportionately impacted by the war on drugs in the cannabis space. In fact, at the forefront, not in the cannabis space, but in the front. And so We work with a lot of advocacy groups. We have a lot of grants. So we work with Olive Harvey College, delivering grants to justice, or delivering services to justice impacted Chicagoans. And then we also just received a grant from the state of Illinois of $1.5 million to really focus on professional development and helping those who are justice impacted understand where those opportunities lie, and how most of the opportunity, believe it or not, is in the ancillary side. So a lot of the folks that I talked to, you know, a lot of my clients were already there. So a lot of those folks that I was talking to were my clients. I had my PR rep there because we had just released a disparity report on badging across the 17 states. And then some of the folks were just new people that I've never actually met in person, but have spoken to or have seen on Zoom or other events, and just haven't had a chance to connect with. But I would say, like, as far as being a service provider, we're often overlooked. What's funny about that is that 67% of the industry is ancillary, and that's going to stay the same. That's not going to change. And acquisitions are coming regardless of if you're plant touching or not. And so when we come to accessibility for Black and brown folks, for women, for those who are justice impacted and can't necessarily get in the industry on the plant touching side because they have records, we have to make sure that we're making opportunities accessible to those folks as well. And believe it or not, like, service providers have pretty scalable ideas when it comes to merging what they do to technology. So I think that's another thing that we, I would just want to kind of push for the next time around, is making sure that we're inclusive of all service providers, and that we understand that they actually see the problems from a scalable standpoint, but need the investors to really bring that to life.
Mommy's assistant said, listen, I didn't get my talk time. Listen, thank you so much. I love that your son is there, because Patrick and Elliot, do you remember when we had the conversation? I said, our women in our community, they're working moms. They've got other commitments. I saw Sarah's son earlier, you know, was on the screen. Like, we have to still work no matter what. Not that our partners do not, our male partners do not, but whether if it's a single mom, it's a two mom house, like, we still have to work. Business still happens. And, you know, sometimes it happens with your child right on your lap as you're building your business, no matter what, or you're taking those calls from the car as you're dropping your child off. And Tiffany's like, yeah, I hear you. Or, you know, so it goes on. And it was important that we were conscious about that. But I actually want to pivot back to Chicago again, to JT of ours. Not only did JT attend, and she was another one, Zooming. I mean, the energy was on like cloud 29, but she was Zooming all over the place in heels this high, just nonstop. And she was so excited and so happy. But JT, as I mentioned to Patrick and Elliot, she's also a license holder, a social equity license holder in the state of Illinois. And we were so excited for her to participate. And honestly, we also have to give a shout out to Curaleaf, who also made the connection to ours, made the connection to 40 Tons, which I hope L'Oreal gets to join us. But JT, I'd love for you to talk about ours, and then also talk about, who were you meeting? You were nonstop, honey.
All right, let me unmute myself. I am so excited to be here with everyone. I want to say a sincere thanks to Gia and Tanya and the Woman Grow team, and to Benzinga for the opportunity. Benzinga was on my mind, but not a reality without Gia and Women Grow and the scholarship. And so excited to have been able to participate. As I said, I'm JT Stinnett with ours. Ours stands for Organic Urban Revitalization Solutions. Ours is a Black-owned, women-led, and culture-steeped cannabis company here in Illinois. We are a infusing licensee as well as a transportation licensee, and we are very excited to be in the game after a 4-year application process. We applied for these licenses in 2019. If anybody knows anything about what happened here in Illinois, it is it's been a case of perseverance, to say the least. And so we are excited. We are in the phase of raising capital for those licenses to stand them up. And Benzinga was an opportunity for us to tell our story. I'm going to echo a lot of what the other ladies shared. I share a lot of those points. It was very affirming to be in the company of other women-led businesses and to hear your story echo back to you. Priceless, Gia, to have those experiences. A lot of the faces that I have been seeing on Zoom and other interactions because of pandemic, it was good to see people in person. Sarah and I spent a lot of time at the after parties and, just socializing and getting to know one another. So all of those experiences were wonderful because networking is very important. As a newly awarded licensee, it's important. We're going to be making great products, gummies and vapes and all of this good stuff. But who are we going to sell it to? What dispensaries are they going to be in? And what other products might we be advocating for? So to learn about other business owners and to share what we're bringing to the marketplace is priceless. One of the things I want to emphasize about ours is we are a socially responsible company. It was evident to us starting out in 2019 that this was going to be a marathon. And so we immediately went to the Chicago Urban League and founded something called the Equity and Justice and Action Compact, which is focused on making sure that there is Black and brown and woman-owned participation in the cannabis industry. To Shani's point, not just our participation, but our thriving in the industry. And that includes ancillary businesses that make us up such a important component. And so with that, it was refreshing to get Gia's late light emails and to get the invitation because we're in alignment with the Invest in Her concept and so excited about what is to come. So thanks again for the opportunity to participate. My suggestion for going forward would be to build a community that we should be in conversation, ongoing conversation with one another, that the conference should just be the start, not the end. That would be my suggestion. So.
Thank you, JT.
I love that. Sorry.
I do too.
Pop in and say that's a great idea.
Can I ask a follow-up really quick, Gia? JT or really anybody, would the idea behind that that group, right, that might be created after the conference of all of you as a start, would it be useful to introduce other mentors, other investors, other everybody into that group? Is it sort of yeah, give me a sense of what you might like to see of folks included in a group like that.
Well,
I want them to answer.
Well, I would say, I don't know if Benzinga can endorse, but there is something about having relationships, and you have in Benzinga and being two white men. And I'm just going to be honest, when your credibility sometimes with those investors that we don't know, of being able to have a platform, even if it's on the website where there's a link that says, here's who the Invest in Her, businesses who have pitched, who are actively looking, and having that, shared out, and then people can click on there and learn about it, or they can click and get our deck. But your relationships that you have so much value. And if there's a way that we can, that you can continue putting us front facing after the conference, I think that would be huge.
It's so useful for us, you guys, to hear this, because we want to prioritize doing what's actually useful for you as a part of this. So give us all the feedback you can. We want to hear it.
Go ahead, Jamie.
Yeah, I'll add to that. To Ross's point, there were so many, right? So many investors, and it was great, and a lot of people, and a lot of resources, and mentors, and just so incredible. But obviously, in 2 days, it's impossible to be able to really connect with everyone. It's just is, right? And so I think what would I feel would help is obviously Benzinga has access to the attendees, the investors. And so if there's a way to create just like a landing page that you can share to them and say, hey, this was the initiative with Women Grow Invest in Her. These are the companies. These are the companies raising investment, looking for mentors, etc. I think if they get an email directly from you all, it then makes them like, because sometimes it's like, okay, we forgot, we went, we're done, now we move forward. So how do we reel them back in so that it's not a one-time deal and then we're over it? Kind of like what JT said, right? It should be the beginning and not just the end of it.
Oh,
And just to follow up on that, oh, sorry, Gia.
No. Go ahead. I was just saying,
Yeah, I was just gonna say to follow up on that with the content. We did it with some of the women here in terms of creating videos and creating content. And that content is meant to be ever present. And I think we started that with the Chicago event, but making it more present prior to the event is also going to be a step we take moving forward, and having that video coverage and these names more present.
So before we go on, I want to bring on L'Oreal of 40 Tons, and because she was also one of the other businesses that pitched from the stage, and she's got an incredible story, a family that had been justice impacted, and she and her husband, oh no, her Wi-Fi dropped. Okay, hope as soon as she comes back, because she's in the car. But one of the other things that I mentioned to you, Patrick and Elliot, is that the Meetup platform that we all, once you are a registered attendee, you actually can see all of the businesses that are participating as well as all the attendees. We probably next time, Meet Max. Thank you, Sarah. I couldn't remember. I was like, it was Meetup or something like that. In past years, even this year, I did that. I went through every single company name and every single person. Now, while I look them up, I don't know what they look like when they get there. Now, you're allowed to do one-on-one, requests. But I think what the women have shared here is if there's a way to even add something to that, right? And I know we also talked about adding the name tags and putting on that identifier of invest in her, so that people do recognize these are women that are participating in this event, but then also having a way, she's coming back, also having a way that they can connect online thereafter, because I think the Meet Max allows you to still remain connected, or at least can send a message to the individual. Is that correct?
That's true, yes. So you'd be able to see the full attendee list and be able to message whomever you like. And that's not available for everybody, right? We're fairly guarded with the investors that come to the conference, right? Unfortunately, we can't let everybody message them, right? But you guys had that opportunity, right? And that was important to us. So loud and clear on that, though. I think there's got to be a way that we can create not only a way to list you guys and make sure that people looking for women-owned companies, minority-owned companies to invest in, that they can, right? And they can find them on our website in a high traffic place, right? But then also to create that connection for you, right? And that's something that we really want to do a better job of. Unfortunately, we can never guarantee that an investor will take a meeting, but we can do a better job of creating the network itself, right? Which, I mean, you've done that, right? You've really been the one to start that, Gia, Tanya. That goes all the credit due to you, right? We just want to support the mission.
Thank you.
Can I also make a recommendation, since we're kind of like in a
Please.
Yeah. So I will say this: when we're on the pitch stage, when you have competing against, being in a time slot that competes against Mike Tyson and Ric Flair, So, thought maybe I know you have you have the different rooms for the different stages for different purposes, but if there was some kind of way that the Invest in Her folks could maybe be that 10-minute fireside in between chat between your big, so that if you got that big room where there's someone coming on, because I think there could have been people that would have loved to hear us, and they were in the big room getting ready for that next big presentation, and they weren't there. And even though the thing about investing is sometimes it's not the typical cannabis investor who's an institutional investor who's like, yeah, I'm an investor. Sometimes it's someone that hears your pitch that may know an investor, or it could be like, we're really in an angels and family and friends round right now. So, for us, we're taking smaller investment amounts. And I think we discount that opportunity. So maybe that's something to think about for future.
Yeah, Roz, you're reading our mind in that sense. We are sincerely looking at ways to adjust the content that matches what the audience, what the investors, and what our attendees are looking to learn about. And capitalizing on that, and going to what I was saying earlier about how these conferences have evolved just over the past 4 years, is we want to include women. We want to include this next generation of leaders in this industry in the education, in the content. That's going to be part of our mission going into the Miami event, is that we want you to participate as a thought leader, as well as, being ready to receive capital. And that's something that we're thinking about as we develop the content going in for Miami.
Awesome. Wait.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, this is all great feedback, and I know that once even we wrap up this conversation, we will all continue to work on ways to do a better job and improve. One of the things that I would recommend too is, and it's with regard to community, is the storytelling piece. So in a few months, when we're back on the stage at Miami, it'd be awesome to, for you all to even share, okay, what has happened since you had those initial connections? Because I think that can also, validate the importance of, the investors providing resources to support your growth. It doesn't have to be institutional, but like Ross said, if it's angel and family and friends, you can see the impact that can be made, even by a little bit of contribution. But I think that also is something that is going to be a great tool to go back when you're working with the communities and say, look, I didn't have these connections before I showed up. Now I do. And look where we are 6 months later. And I think that's a way to get everybody, all the stakeholders invested too.
So I want to call on L'Oreal because I don't want her to drop again.
Oh my gosh.
An awesome story from the stage. L'Oreal, I want you to jump in here. Tell everyone about 40 tons. And, you also pitched from the stage, but your husband joined you. And that was something a little different that we had not done before. So please introduce 40 tons and talk about how it was pitching with your husband from the stage and why.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Gia. I'm sorry about the connection. As you mentioned, or some other people mentioned before, as a woman and a mother or a nurturer, you have to multitask. So I do apologize for the internet being so shoddy as I was driving from and two places. But yes, my name is L'Oreal. 40 Tons is a social impact cannabis brand. The path to greatness for me wasn't quite ideal, as we were coming from legacy to legal. But fortunate enough, we met some great people along the way. Gia, you're one of them. We met in New York, right? And your energy was absolutely contagious and very organic. And I knew from that moment that we were going to make history together. And I was super honored when Women Grow asked, for me to present on stage there at Benzinga, and then meeting Patrick and Elliot and all the great folks over there. Everybody was just super supportive of me and our story and what we're doing here at 40 Tons. Basically, we're just bridging the gap between BIPOC communities, with a couple of arms of our company, with our Can I Get a Second Chance Cannabis Career Conference, our Prisoner Give Back program, and all of our strategic partnerships that we have, some of them being with Herbal, Sunset Connect, and Curaleaf. So I'm super excited about all those opportunities. Pitching from the stage. Oh boy.
With your husband, and why?
Okay, so here with it's very challenging for me. So it was actually literally, figuratively for me, women growing. So it made me grow and get outside of my box and my comfort zone. Of presenting on stage and letting people know. So with Anthony, I had this idea, hey, we are a trio with Corvain, but he was not able to attend, but I made it a duo. And it was important that I showcase women of color like myself and my husband, and how we have made our footprint in the cannabis industry, and where we began and where we're going and how many people we met along the way. It was important for him to tell his story and his version of events, and what he felt and his ordeals that he went through as a white man in the industry, married to a woman of color, and us show that diversity, and we both can do this and be successful together. So it was very exciting. Yes, nerve-wracking, but I appreciated the support that I was given. And I went on after, I think it was the Tommy Hilfiger cannabis brand. I forget the name, so forgive me for that. But I was very honored even to go on after him, because I felt like, oh my gosh, I've got a real position here. I had a lot of questions. I think I ran out of time, where they were like, hey, you got to get out of here. You know, you've got to go. Your time is up. But it made my goal was to get my company out there even more, let people hear our story, possibly just have conversations with investors. Yes, I was able to have conversations with many investors. I met another man, Corey Jacobs, who was given a 10 life sentence, who was actually there. And, I actually knew the lawyer who helped him get out of prison for nonviolent offenses that he had. Investors. There was one gentleman, I'll just call him Mike, who was there when I pitched. And he came up to me and said, I love what you're doing. Send me over your deck. Let's talk. Right. And I followed up with him. I didn't get a response, but he did follow me to Las Vegas, MJ Unpacked. And that's where I had another conversation with him. So it doesn't mean that these investor conversations should yield something overnight. This can take time. It is growing a baby that's never, been to fruition yet. And so I think patience is what is needed. And so I'm willing to do the work and back and forth emails and Zooms and whatnot. So I'm here ready to do the work, and I'm excited for the next Benzinga. So hopefully I can be a part of that as well. So thank you, everyone.
That is awesome. Thank you so much. And one thing that we did, and I thank the guys for this, came out of our brainstorming, is that we have clips which we will replay. I don't think tonight, Tanya, I think it's another day. We're just going to replay all of the businesses to continue to amplify their voices and highlight just what they're doing, right? And we played that on a reel in our booth space, throughout the show. And it was great because they got to see the faces of the women, but I feel like there's a way we can do it a little bit differently. Now, Shawnee put a comment in the box. And so I actually want to talk about just quickly some of our dislikes. I think we touched on them, but there were some dislikes. And if we're going to have that conversation, then let's talk about what we didn't like about the experience. So Shawnee, you put the comment in and I was like, you're going to talk about it. I'm going to call you out.
Of course you are. So I am known to be very, very candid. So please don't take this, personally at all. But for me, I've been through the investor conversation before with several investment groups and co-ops and things like that. And what I see is that if your lifestyle or your service provider, they don't even want to hear what you have to say, which is really sad, because a lot of us have really good ideas that are involving technology based on the work that we currently do, what we're really skilled at. And we just need the capital to jumpstart it. But on the other side of that, acquisition and mergers, I am so sorry. He is not having it today. He has a fever. But mergers and acquisitions is definitely going to be a thing. It's already been a conversation that's come up in the staffing side of cannabis. And so it's only a matter of time before everyone starts having those conversations from a service perspective, because, you know, the large Adecco staffing and other staffing companies that are just waiting for federal legalization, they're on their way. They're going to be ready to have those conversations. But it's the same for accounting firms and law firms and tech companies and all types of companies. So we have to be able to have those types of conversations as well, as far as mergers and acquisition, and allowing service providers to come into that space so they can understand what their exit strategy is.
Okay. No,
Amen.
thank you. Go ahead, guys.
No, I love that. You know, some of you may know, most probably don't, which is totally fine. We host a lot of content, and I really think the health of the industry, nobody can capture it like those who work in HR and staffing and with people. And I've learned that over the course of many conversations with recruiters, with staffers, and you see employee happiness, and you see customer happiness. And Shawnee, your words are heard, and that content will be had. You know, but I think the M&A side of ancillary businesses in this industry, it for sure will be added to the content docket, because it hasn't been thus far. So I appreciate that idea.
I appreciate that we're able to have this conversation, Patrick. I love your assistant that joined you as well, and we know that it's almost bedtime.
You just missed the ukulele coming out, so thank God you missed that piece of it. But I can relate, Shawnee, and I understand too. Just really quickly, Gia, the importance of that conversation, and not only getting involved in content, but also making sure that investors know the value of supporting businesses like yours, because that's not a story that we tell a lot, but we do ask their preferences when we ask them to join, right? What types of businesses they're interested in investing in, what size of the deal, all that kind of stuff, right? And we know that some of them are interested in investing in service providers, right? So that's a conversation we should have, and obviously we want to support your growth and other organizations like you.
Go ahead, Roz. Roz and then Sarah.
Yeah, if I could say something, I know the intention of the luncheon podium education, but it is a tough crowd, and I feel for those people on stage. And I know there was a couple of it was an incident. I don't know if you guys were there, but there was a incident one day where the young lady with Banks, like, you know, she really had to kind of muscle to get everyone to listen. And so if it's not, I don't think that's cool. And also I saw like the same people on multiple panels, but this is just a kind of like you know, again, I think there's so many people that you can choose from, but I don't know how that goes about or what have you. And that's really not like, you know, maybe this conversation right now, but just, you know, thinking about, you know, is Carson right with Banks, right? Is it Carson?
Correct.
And I felt for her as a woman and as someone that was there to present, and she didn't have someone so that she could sit back and be ready to share and to get that room focused on what she was going to talk about. So just know that room gets really, really busy, and you know, I don't know. So how they
so that is, it's such a good point. I'm really glad you brought it up. We've spoken obviously with Carson and her team. We spoke to them on site and a few times after that, right? It was just poorly executed, right? And it wasn't in our intention to allow people to eat lunch in that room. I think we were a bit hampered by the venue and what we had available, to be quite honest, but no excuse, right? It was not a good experience for the speakers in that room. Probably wasn't a good experience for the people eating lunch in that room and trying to network, right? To have content sort of forced on them. But we learned a valuable lesson there, right? And that sort of lunchtime content probably can't be a thing if people are eating in there.
Well, it was a lot of conversation and networking. So if you're not at the booth with the the investor in her booth and you're ready to sit down and have lunch, I had so many substantive dialogue with people during lunch that I sat at a table with that I had no idea who they were. And before it was over, we're exchanging cards and we're just really getting connected. And you want to talk more, but you also want to be respectful for the people on stage. So it was just like a clash, right? And for us, Sarah, Shawnee, JT, Jamie, like these moments are so just precious that you try to, you don't want to be disrespectful, but you're like, I need to talk to this guy because he knows someone that knows someone. And I made at least 5 to 6 really key contacts during that lunchtime period, to be honest with you.
One of the notes that I sent out to the team about networking, do you guys remember? I was like, you'll know about 5 minutes in if you want to talk to that person or not. And you have to be polite, but also very direct. Listen, I'd love to talk to you more, but I had to go and meet with this person right now. And I hope, because Shiraz is absolutely right. It's hard because you're trying to get a lot done in a short period of time. And I don't know, if maybe that's some practice on our side. We got to figure that out. But here's the other thing. I actually want to pivot to Sarah. Sarah had some comments in the chat back here. And Sarah, what I'd like to ask you is, you spend a lot of time in the booth space. What areas could you see improvement there? Like what overall, even in your overall experience?
Well, the number one thing I would say is the placement of the booth. A lot of people that I talked to when I did get out into the rooms didn't even know we were there because we were all the way in the back. So, I'm didn't organize the floor. I don't know how those things go, but I think that would have even, magnified the presence more if we made it if put it more in the flow, I think, of where most of the traffic was going. Which, and that's also a reason why it made it hard for me to get to some of the session. There was just a lot of distance between where we were, where a lot of the action was. Now, if you were on the floor and you made it back to us, where the action was on the floor. But
your booth was pretty popping, right?
It was popping. I'm just saying, if it was up front, I think everybody would have been like, what the hell is this? Because it was just, the energy was so it was so present. And, while Benzinga, you guys are, preparing for the next conference and moving on to whatever, I'm sure, getting ready for the next event. All of us business owners are still focused on whatever the task is that we have at hand. I saw some amazing pitches. Roz's in particular just blew me away. It was a masterclass. And what I dropped there in the chat was, I've been paying attention to what emails and stuff are going out. And granted, I'm not an investor, so I'm not sure what they're getting, but the longevity of the material that was generated from this particular conference goes a long way in helping us to achieve our goals, which aren't really changed a month or two after the conclusion of the event. So, I'm going to use Roz as an example, but having that video, the camera was on her. I saw it. It was video, I was like, oh, thank God. Because I remember a couple minutes into her pitch being like, oh, you idiot. Why aren't you taping this? But I was so enthralled. I said, I'm sure I'll be able to watch it later. It'll be easy. Maybe there is a way to watch it. Is it easy? And are we directing the right people to there? That's something that you guys could help out with a ton. That would it would go so far for all of us and everything that we're trying to achieve, all of our goals here, but especially for my sisters who presented up on the stages. That's and I don't know, licensing, whatever, if they can have access to that and share it themselves too. But I know that we're a video first digital era. This kind of asset is gold, for it to be seen by as many eyeballs as possible is what everybody should want. So as far as, how can that what can be done, to maximize the visibility of that content for Invest in Her. That's just a question I would want to put out there.
So we have just under 10 minutes left before we wrap at 7:30. I want to hear from JT quickly and from Jamie, and then we're going to bring Tanya back in for our closing remarks. But yeah, I want to pivot over to JT very quickly because you shared your experience and what you'd like to see differently. Is there anything in our preparation of getting you to Benzinga that you would like to see us as Women Grow and Benzinga together do something different for you?
I can emphatically say you did a wonderful job, Gia. That checklist I printed and I was prepared. And I think echo some of the other ladies commenting on that checklist and what to have, and just the statement you just made about if after talking for 15 or 20 minutes, excuse yourself and move on to keep the conversations going. Those were all great points. I'm going to circle back to what I said earlier, and that is creating conversation between this network, all of us that were part of Invest in Her. I think that would be priceless for us to continue to be in communication. That would be my recommendation for going forward. Whether it is someone talked about a landing page or sharing the videos that we did that were at the booth, just learning more about each other and growing our network would be the biggest suggestion I have for moving forward. But the prep stuff that you all presented, that you presented in particular, Gia and Women Grow, was excellent. And I felt well prepared. I think ongoing, just to keep the conversation going, is most important.
Jamie, I got to ask you, was there a dislike for you there in your experience?
Yes. I mean, I think, this was the first Invest in Her, right? And so as anything, there's an evolution journey to everything to make it better, to improve it. What I felt was not from the preparation standpoint, because I, like JT, I feel you did an incredible job. Like, I was like, oh my God, I feel prepared in the sense from what Gia is providing to us. I would say the improvement is that, and I think it's just, again, Sarah also mentioned that although the initiative is there, it just needs to be highlighted more. So whether one of the big rooms has it, I know the video was playing, but it had no sound. And so some of these women that were presenting and pitching on stage, those rooms were empty, like literally empty, and people were getting up and walking out. And this is not a fault of Benzinga or Women Grow at all. It's just, I felt at that time that it's a mindset, right? I mean, this has been an industry that has been dominated by men, and a lot of the men that are in the industry are white men with a lot of money now, right? Profiting from this. And so I think it's that mindset of maybe they're just not, it's a transition period where, like, okay, these are women in the industry, these are women of color. Do we want to sit and listen to them? They're not used to it. So I think it's just a learning process. So I feel, as an initiative of Invest in Her, how do we amplify this? Not just as a follow-up via email and a landing page, but really at the actual event. How do we make it big? How do we let them know, like, hey, these women are not here to play around. They're doing this with passion. They know what they're doing. They're businesswomen. Yes, they need resources, but they're here for the long run, And so I think it's just somewhere around that. And I don't know what that looks like, again, because I'm not the one putting this event together, and I can only imagine the amount of work behind it. But it's just the amplification of it I feel, ought to be much bigger for the investors and everyone to take this serious. That's my feedback on that.
Thank you so much, Jamie. And so what I'd say to Elliot and Patrick, you've got five of the women here. L'Oreal just dropped off. Can you speak to them? Can you give them some of your closing remarks? Because Patrick, I know you've got to put the babies to bed, and Elliot's got to work on the night shift because he's on night shift with his newborn. But before you guys part and before we close out, if you can speak to the women here, what message would you give them in terms of getting ready for the next one? What advice, what tips? Because I think that's also helpful in our preparedness as we start preparing for that next show.
I'll start by saying this. It's funny. You don't need us to tell you what to do, and I'm not going to patronize you by mansplaining how to come up here and pitch. Right? Listen to Roz. Right? Go watch her presentation, or listen to Gia, listen to Tanya. These people know what they're talking about. I've never been so impressed and wanted to dive in more with a group that we've worked with. Right. I told Elliot about halfway through this process, I was like, man, Women Grow, best partner we've ever had. Right. Best partner we've ever had. So I think from my point of view, we have our work cut out for us. I think every event in this space does, really, in any space, but certainly in cannabis. I think, just to your point, Jamie, too, we know we didn't do a good enough job about letting the world know we were doing this. Right. And some of that is probably hesitation on our side to try, we don't want to claim we're getting it right by any means. So there's a bit of hesitation there, but I want to show the world what amazing people we have, right? Including these incredible women, these business owners who are here to do business, right? So I think Elliot, Ernest will be a perfect addition to that strategy and moving the ball forward there. But we have our work cut out for us in terms of making it an even better showing, a better product for all of you in Miami, right? Elliot, do you have anything you want to add to that, man?
No, we went through a period of education, still are. I want at least half of our speakers to be women. Yeah. That is something that we are striving for. It is, it's something that we will attempt. And obviously, I think we put out several calls on social media already. Drop us the names of women leaders in cannabis, and we are always open to suggestions for that. And to Roz's point, getting more people on and not maybe letting one person have multiple speaking topics will help. There's a lot of different ways that we can finagle that. But I think going forward, you'll see some changes in our content. You'll see some changes in our marketing. You'll see some changes in the access, not only to the event, because we did have free tickets for social equity or minority and women-owned businesses, but did we really let people know that we had those? And then what does that actually mean at the event? These are all things that we are looking to build on. And honestly, the feedback you all provided us with the network, especially, I love that, providing a continuous way for you to reach out and utilize our network and community at Benzinga is incredibly important. And I think something we can act on pretty quickly.
So can I just say that I was in the Miami show and the Chicago show this year, two of the best shows. I mean, I go to pretty much all the major shows throughout the year, but we walked away from Miami. I'm in Florida, so I know the thirst for good cannabis-driven content and not fluff. And you guys did an amazing job in Miami. And I didn't think you could top it in Chicago, but it was even over the top. And for me, it was the Women Grow part, the Invest in Her, that really gave me this, like, I don't know, it was just nice to run into. I knew women that were a part of the Invest in Her, the young lady in the pink, running into Sarah, running into Shawnee. We was tired, but we was energetic. I mean, it just had this beautiful energy about it. And so, again, I know we've talked about being grateful, but again, very, very thankful because there's still contacts I made in Miami that we're teasing out, and especially in Chicago that we're still teasing out. My hope is Miami in 2023, I want to be able to say this happened because of Benzinga, and then this is where I am, and because of it, and now I have. It's not only just money capital. Sometimes it's the relationships, or it's the opportunity or the partnership that I've been looking for. That's that last cog in the wheel that takes me to the next level. So
that's it, Roz. That's it. Because that network, that connection can actually connect you to the potential.
That's right. Your network is your net worth is your network, right? That's what they say. So
love that. Last thing I'll say, and I'll shut up, Gia, that one of the biggest things that we can do to help all of you, if you have any news whatsoever, any announcements whatsoever, even if it seems like you wouldn't put out a press release for it, right? If it's just an accomplishment that you have in your business and you're proud of it, send it to us, right? We'll post about it. We'll write about it, right? Javier is amazing. The cannabis news desk is really top notch at Benzinga, and they're real people. They're not computers, which is amazing, right? We want to be able to support you and get the word out.
Listen, and the black guy who was the announcer, I just went to him. He's amazing.
He was
favorite person.
awesome. So good.
Kevin Irwin.
So good.
Kevin Irwin. I'm hiring him for every event we're doing moving forward.
I went to him. I said, brother, let me just tell you that you have made my day, because that voice and that professionalism and that he just had it, that je ne sais quoi. So
can I put out an ask? We want a woman announcer as well. We want a counterpart to Kevin. So
I know.
I need someone.
Yeah.
Okay, come on. Let's go.
I love that I love this whole conversation. I don't know how you all feel about it, but I love it. I love that Elliot and Patrick in real time, not only you asking, but I know you're going to follow up with it. I know that Roz knows that. The other women will learn just how genuine you all are. And I thank you for hearing and coming on the public platform to hear the feedback, because I shared it with you, but I'm like, no, we're going to talk about it. I want to ask about the likes, dislikes, improvement. And look, there were some additional comments from the women that weren't able to join us. One of the things we talked about was the networking that happened in the lobby. And I shared it with you, and you're like, yeah, but that's not our show. And you're absolutely right. That was just the structure of the hotel. You couldn't control the noise level, but there's always still more to, and Patrick said, no more Benzinga. Honey, after this, no, it will be Womanzinga. Okay. It will be Womanzinga. But I appreciate that you both were open to the feedback from us, and to actually receive it here, and to be able to even give some feedback in real time and say, you know what, thank you, and acknowledging our voices. So we greatly appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. We still have to do this follow-up, because heck, what is it? Road to Miami. I mean,
we want you all there. For sure.
Hey, listen, I'm 2 hours away. I'm 3 hours away, so you already know.
I'm ready. I love the beach. I'm ready.
That's what Jamie said. She was like, I love the beach. And honestly, I'm with Roz. That was a phenomenal experience. The weather was great. The energy was great. I think it was one of the events just coming. We're not entirely post-pandemic, but I think everyone was excited about it, and people came ready to engage. And I thought that setup at the Fountain Blue was awesome. So you, Patrick and Elliot, I know you have to go. We ran over a little bit, but I want to just talk to the ladies real quick, because I love them so much. And then I'm going to let them go. 1 minute, ladies. But Patrick and Elliot, thank you so much. We will be following up. Brothers, I love you.
Much appreciated. Thank you all. Thanks for the feedback.
So much.
Only up from here.
So I wanted Tanya to come back on and join us. Sarah, Jamie, JT, Roz. I know the other ladies had to leave, but I want to thank you so much for joining us. Tanya, I know you had some feedback from Benzinga, and I wanted to give you that time. I know we ran over, but you know
everything. And honestly, everyone mimics everything I felt. We had a really great time, and I can't wait till Miami.
So if I can ask this, there's power in partnership, and when you guys are getting ready to again invest in her Miami, so that's kind of like the next. I want to make sure that I lend Infra as a conduit to invite women to either participate, what have you, because I do believe it shouldn't always be like the same people having the same opportunity. And I'm okay with that. Like if I just get there to either speak or what have you, but being able to grab the next people up. And then
Oh,
from a
absolutely.
partnership standpoint, the power of having two organizations that serve similar constituents, have similar, but being able to come together. It doesn't have to have my name on it, M for MM, nothing, but us being able to put energy and love towards what you're doing. Just know you can count us in.
I appreciate that. And what I'll tell you, and too bad the guys weren't here, when we first started talking about it, and we were talking about just the aftermath of Miami, and I said, oh yeah, no, the social equity track was great. I'd like to introduce women as part of the conversation of being represented. And I had to, and they said, okay, and will we be able to have like the social equity minority? And I was like, well, minority women are part of the gender of women, right? Like, you're gonna still get it, because we're gonna still make sure that it's diverse, right? That you're gonna hear from diverse women in cannabis. But to your point, Roz, absolutely, this was our first run out, and we didn't, I will say where my hesitancy was going too big at the start, and then not having the right formula. And that part was really difficult, trying to narrow it down to like 16 companies, right? And it's like, why 16? Like, we could have gone for 20, but I was getting a little scared. And the more I kept saying, all right, Tanya, when I sent Tanya the agenda she was like, what? I was like, I know. But we didn't want to go too little, but we didn't want to go too big, because the other piece is I take each of you personally. I don't want to fail you. Tanya doesn't want to fail you. Shonda doesn't want to fail you. And if we didn't do it right out the gate, I literally would have been crushed. I would have felt so bad, like, damn it, we failed them. But we know that if we start small, we can grow bigger.
Exactly.
So I will take you up on that offer, Sister Roz. I will take you all up on that offer in terms of bringing new faces, because we're always looking for new businesses. We have this platform, and we're blessed to have the platform that reaches the people that we do. And we want to be able to amplify more and more voices in the industry, especially because Sarah, you're in Ohio, right? Right. So the fact you're in Ohio, Jamie's in New York, JT's in Chicago, Roz is in Florida. And do you know that when we selected the participants for Benzinga, not only was it intentional that we tapped local, but that we also tapped states that weren't often represented at these cannabis conferences. So I think after this conversation, you got me motivated. You got Tanya motivated. Oh, we are ready to start like inviting more. We need to find somebody in Oklahoma, Minnesota. Like, we got to hit those markets, because their voices deserve to be heard. And I appreciate all of you, and those that couldn't join us tonight. I appreciate them, and look for your videos to be running.
Yeah, I was going to say they're coming up. We're going to actually upload them individually to our YouTube channel. And then we're gonna blast them up on IG so people can see how amazing you and your brands are.
That's fantastic.
So Tanya, you take us out, girl.
So everyone, thank you so much for joining us tonight. This is the first of many. I hope to do another Benzinga recap when we come back from Miami. Where we won't have as many room. We'll have to do it in shifts. There's going to be so many women. I can only fit 10 people on a screen. So I look for, and I wanted to say, like, the women that worked directly at the table where I was, it was so wonderful to get to know you. Some of you I've never met in person, like Sarah and Tiffany. I'd never met them in person. We've done live events. It was like, oh my God, I could touch you. It was so fantastic.
A blast.
Yeah, it was.
Our booth really was like the best booth there.
I mean, on and popping.
People were like, "What are you guys selling?" I'm like, nothing.
Positive energy. How about that?
Yeah, right. I don't know.
Exactly. It was fantastic. So, thank you everyone who's watched for joining us tonight. Look forward to our next virtual event, and stay safe out there. And talk to you soon. Let me get us out of here.
Thanks.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Have a great night.
Have a good night.